Just as she was ready to close, a surprising encounter with a lonely CEO revealed incredible hope. Mary stood behind the counter of her cherished bookstore, the musty scent of aged paper and bound leather filling her lungs like a morning song. The rain tapped against the window like a persistent reminder of the approaching darkness both outside and within. She looked around at the empty shelves, memories echoing in the silence, and wrestled with the fading reality that this might be her last evening here. Her heart sank as a wave of despair washed over her. The thought of closing the shop, her late husband's dream, felt like a betrayal, yet the dwindling sales screamed that survival was her only choice. Just as she prepared to turn off the lights for the last time, the bell over the door chimed, snapping her from her spiral of sorrow. In walked David, wrapped in a coat that screamed of a life lived in boardrooms and high-rises, a man who wore his burden like an old friend. He approached the counter, his eyes scanning the shop with a flicker of something lost. Was it nostalgia or longing? "A cup of black coffee, please," he said, his voice steady but distant, as if he were still far away. That initial moment of connection tethered Mary's racing mind. Here was this man, a complete stranger, trapped in his own form of solitude. They exchanged faint smiles, and something raw pulsed silently between them. As she fixed his order, her hands trembled slightly, the weight of her responsibility gnawing at her resolve. The conversation bloomed hesitantly, rooted in shared vulnerability, the fear of loss, the unshakable pressures, the deep ache of dreams slipping away. With every word exchanged, Mary felt the looming specter of defeat hovering nearby. How could she share her struggle without sounding defeated? "It's hard, you know," she finally confessed, voice barely above a whisper. "Trying to keep this place alive, even as everything else crumbles around it. My daughter's future is at stake, too." David nodded, his expression serious, a flicker of understanding in his gaze. Their conversation grew deeper, weaving stories of love and losses, corporate successes shadowed by personal tragedy, her loyalty to a legacy threatened by the harshness of reality. Doubt tugged at her heart, as she realized how quickly time was passing. What if she had to choose between her daughter's dreams and this little slice of comfort she fought to maintain? Suddenly, the small town's crushing news reached her. A shopping center was in the works, ready to swallow her bookstore whole. The knot tightened in her chest. This wasn't just about a shop closing. It was about a legacy, a heartbeat of memory. Emotions churned within her, alternating between blazing determination and suffocating anxiety. Everything could change, she thought frantically. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Could it really be too late? Mary's thoughts raced. David's presence was an unexpected lifeline, but could she genuinely trust him? As he spoke, an idea shimmered. Could they join forces to save what she thought was lost? Yet doubt lingered like the coffee's bitter aftertaste. What did a man like him stand to gain from this small flicker of her world? Standing on that precipice, lost in their conversation, Mary felt the storm outside matching the tempest brewing in her heart. The rain pounded harder, a chaotic dance of dark clouds reflecting her tumultuous emotions, and just like that, the question loomed larger than any shopping center: was she ready to embrace this uncertain lifeline, or would she succumb to the shadows closing in? Mary leaned against the counter, her heart pounding as the reality of her predicament intertwined with the man before her. David's determined gaze seemed to shatter the mute despair enveloping her. He wasn't just a passing stranger, he was a reflection of her own unresolved battles, a man wrestling with his own demons. Could there be strength in vulnerability? Why not, she thought, impulsively embracing the tiny spark ignited by their conversation. What if we collaborated? What if two lost souls could forge a path through the uncertainty? Just as these thoughts crystallized, she found her voice. You said you were looking for something? Yes, David replied, the weight of his gaze pinning her. Perhaps an opportunity to find a purpose. I've climbed corporate ladders for years, but there has to be more than ceaseless numbers and profitability. I want to be part of something that matters. Mary's pulse quickened. What about this place? She ventured, the words tumbling out before fear could halt her. What if we could host events, readings, something to draw in the community? A flicker of excitement ignited in David's expression. Events can breathe new life into forgotten spaces, he mused, leaning forward as if contemplating the architecture of their idea. But we need a strategy, a plan to draw attention. Exactly. Mary felt emboldened, the shadows around her beginning to recede as she envisioned the potential. What if we started with a book club? A launch of local authors? Maybe even a weekly coffee night? As they exchanged ideas, a new sense of agency washed over her. The spirit of her husband seemed more present than ever, hovering in her heart, buoying her purpose. They could come here not just to buy, but to connect. The thought invigorated her, and she spoke with newfound conviction. However, doubt loomed just below the surface. Would their ideas translate into reality? What if they failed spectacularly? What if we lose money? The pragmatic side of her mind whispered ominously. She pushed the thought away. Loss was already a known quantity, and just possibly, risking for something meaningful was worth the possibility of success. I've seen both sides, Mary, David said gently, almost sensing her trepidation. But sometimes opportunities are hidden in risks. I would charge ahead for this vision. Listening to him, Mary felt her resolve strengthen. This was about more than just saving a shop, it was about reclaiming her autonomy in a world that seemed designed to stifle her. What if we not only save this place, but make it thrive? She asked softly, glancing out at the rain-soaked street outside, a metaphor for the unpredictable terrain that lay ahead. The sound of thunder echoed in the distance, signaling the storm's continued fury, yet Mary felt a shift within, a newfound determination rising to face the challenges ahead. Her daughter deserved a legacy, and maybe, just maybe, she was capable of creating one amidst the ruins. As they started sketching a plan, the weight of the future felt lighter. But beneath the surface, the implications of involving a man from such a contrasting world unsettled her. If everything fluctuated like the weather outside, would her heart remain steadfast against unforeseen turbulence? With the storm outside now raging, Mary felt both nervous and exhilarated. What if this is the turning point? She thought, her fingers brushing the spine of a beloved book on the shelf. The decision to embrace this partnership had been made, but could they withstand the incoming tide? Outside, the rain intensified, a violent symphony against the windows, mirroring the unfolding drama of her new course. She sensed that the true storms lay ahead, as they prepared to launch their first event. Mary found herself keenly aware that her greatest challenge had only just begun, to trust David, to face her fears, and to fight for not just her bookstore but her own identity. But was the past truly behind her, or would it re-emerge to threaten her newfound resolve? Standing in the dim glow of the overhead lights, Mary felt the air crackle with anticipation, a mix of uncertainty and the thrill of possibility. As she and David plotted the schedule for the upcoming book club, the chaotic energy of the storm outside seemed to resonate with her inner turmoil. Would their collaboration hold up against the looming chaos of her life's challenges? Let us break down the logistics, David suggested, sifting through magazines and flyers scattered across the counter. Each article spoke of authors who found their voices in unexpected places, giving Mary a fleeting taste of the success that seemed just out of reach. If only they could replicate such moments here. What about advertising this? She asked, a note of hope mingling with her pragmatic tone. We could create a social media page. It could start as a hub for local authors and spread from there. As she spoke, she noted the subtle shift in David's expression, his interest piqued. Definitely, he replied, his enthusiasm palpable. But we must also consider our brand. The bookstore needs to exude warmth, an invitation to potential visitors. It should embody what we stand for. Mary nodded, the notion resonating deeply. It wasn't just about selling books. It was about fostering a culture of connection, a sanctuary for people longing for solace in stories. Perhaps a tagline? Something that suggests we're a safe harbor for lost book lovers? As hours slipped by, their dialogue transformed the shop from a mere space to an evolving dream. But amid the growing excitement, shadows flickered through Mary's mind. Every idea they shared was a double-edged sword, inviting opportunity while dragging with it the specter of past failures. Glancing at the clock, Mary felt the weight of impending choices bearing down on her. Outside, the rain thrummed on the pavement, echoing her doubts. Could she really step into a realm of creativity after burying herself in grief? Could vulnerability truly be her strength? "Let us finalize the date for our first meeting," David said, unaware of her internal conflict. His energy propelled her forward, yet fear constrained her. If we're going to make a splash, we must act decisively. As the weeks morphed into a schedule, Mary began to visualize the bookstore bustling with activity. But then a chilling thought gripped her: what if this venture flopped? What if she entrusted her vulnerabilities to David and he let her down? "You okay?" he asked, noticing her hesitation. Thinking about the what-ifs, she confessed, her voice barely emerging above the storm outside. "The last time I took a chance, it turned to ruin. What if this goes the same way?" David regarded her thoughtfully, his expression a mixture of empathy and challenge. "I get it, but what if this time is different? What if we're meant to create something special?" His words were a balm, yet they stirred a softness in her heart, trembling between the safety of her familiar fears and the dangers of courage. She was on the precipice of something transformative, yet the prospect terrified her. Taking a deep breath, Mary looked David straight in the eye, a silent agreement passing between them. "Okay. Let us do this. But if we're diving in, we need a contingency plan. I can't afford another derailment." "Agreed," he replied. "Let us prepare for every possibility. Embracing uncertainty requires rigor, and we'll commit to that." With a stronger arm than before, Mary began to piece together a list of potential authors, themes, and even backup strategies. It felt liberating to craft a path, to focus on the details instead of succumbing to her fears. As days ticked by, they found the rhythm of their partnership blossoming, yet she was aware of the delicate balance they stood on, each decision an intricate step toward dynamic change. Yet, as the date of the book club approached, a gnawing sensation told her that the true challenge might lie ahead. Would her past truly afford her the lessons she needed to step forward, or would it serve as a chain binding her to fear? Feeling the pull of the past once more as the forgotten fragments of her life bubbled to the surface, Mary realized the storm within her heart had become as tumultuous as the one outside. How would she confront this newfound journey as the final countdown began? She could sense that a reckoning awaited her. The days raced toward the book club's launch, an impending storm of excitement and dread swirling within Mary. Every hour spent planning alongside David accomplished more than just logistics. It ignited her dormant passion for stories, rekindling a brightness within her that she feared had dimmed irrevocably. Yet the weight of her unresolved past loomed, casting a shadow across this new venture. As they set up for their first meeting, Mary meticulously arranged the chairs in a welcoming semicircle and dusted the shelves, lingering on the titles that had once brought her solace. Each book represented another life lived, another conflict faced, and a reminder of how far she'd strayed from the joys they offered. She paused, tracing her fingers along the spines, listening for echoes of wisdom hidden within, wondering if they might guide her forward. David entered, joyfully holding a batch of freshly printed flyers. "These look great. I think we'll catch some attention with this." His optimism was infectious, yet it stirred a mix of admiration and envy in Mary. Could she match his unwavering confidence? Or would her anxiety sabotage their efforts? "Do you think people will come?" she asked, testing the waters for reassurance. "Absolutely. You're not just inviting them to a book club, you're offering them a community," he encouraged. The way he spoke ignited a flicker of hope, yet shadows tugged at her resolve. As the minutes crawled toward the start time, Mary's mind drifted to the question of what it truly meant to lead. She recalled an effervescent author, Emma, speaking years ago about the delicate balance of vulnerability and strength. Was this vulnerability something she could harness for this collaboration, or would it become another avenue for failure? Mary's heart raced with uncertainty as the clock struck the hour. A small group trickled in, creating a poignant contrast to her swirling thoughts. Each face carried its own story, anxieties alike camouflaged by smiles. As David welcomed each participant, Mary practiced her introduction in her mind. But her internal script faltered when a new arrival caught her eye. A tall figure, sharply dressed but clearly out of place, hesitated just inside the doorway. His hesitance held a weight. She recognized the sensation of entering a space where the heart was raw and exposed, stripped of pretense. "Are you here for the book club?" she found herself asking, her voice steady, but tinged with empathy. His gaze lifted, revealing deep-set eyes that spoke of isolation and resolve. "I am." There was a gravitas to his words, as if claiming that title came with its own burdens. Moments stretched as they exchanged unspoken vulnerabilities in that quiet, air-thick moment. "Great. I'm Mary," she introduced herself, extending her hand. Their handshake was firm, but his warmth felt fleeting. "I'm George," he replied, his uncertainty betraying his polished exterior. As they settled into the meeting, Mary felt the stirrings of a connection. George's insights were not mere opinions. They carried the weight of introspection. Each comment he made added depth to the conversation, revealing layers of his personality that juxtaposed his solitary appearance. It became clear that he, like her, was wrestling with his own chains. Halfway through their discussion, Mary noticed George's gaze darting toward the back of the room. "I haven't been part of something like this in a long time," he confessed quietly. It was a crack in his professional facade, revealing a longing for belonging that resonated within her. "Neither have I," she admitted. "Sometimes, it feels easier to stay on the outside, doesn't it?" His expression shifted, vulnerability surfacing as he nodded slowly. By the time the meeting ended, the faces surrounding her were not just familiar, they were allies, a nascent community in bloom. George approached her afterward, a mix of gratitude and hesitation flickering in his eyes. "I didn't expect to feel so seen here." "Thank you." For the first time in what felt like ages, Mary felt the power of connection wrap around her. She recognized that through guiding others, she was also stepping into her light. But as George left the shop, something else ignited within her, a seed of courage that hinted at previously unexplored possibilities. With the day closing to a close, Mary replayed the interactions in her mind, riding the tide of new emotions. The thought ran through her, the real challenge lay ahead. What would she create moving forward? What personal truths would emerge as she embraced this series of revelations? As she gazed out the window, rain reflecting the vibrancy of the evening, a new realization hit her: it wouldn't be easy. The journey she was on might stretch beyond mere book discussions. Could these gatherings transform lives just as they were transforming hers? And could her connection with George evolve into something further, a partnership beyond books? A thrill of anticipation surged as she uncovered this uncharted territory within herself. The real voyage was just beginning, and its horizon held secrets that whispered for her attention. What was waiting on the other side of fear? The following week unfolded with surprising ease, a brisk momentum coursing through Mary as she prepared for the next book club meeting. Each passing day gradually diffused her earlier doubts, cementing the realization that she had entered an enriching chapter of her life. The once daunting prospect of leading had transformed into an exciting challenge, one that now inspired her at an unexpected level. As the clock crept toward the scheduled time, Mary busied herself with the details, arranging refreshments, selecting a novel that resonated with themes of connection, and rehearsing her opening statements. The warm aroma of brewed coffee wafted through the small bookstore, mingling with the comforting scent of paper and ink. It felt like home, a place where she could ignite dialogue and enable others to share their narratives. David arrived early, a coffee cup already in hand. "I've been thinking about what we discussed last week," he mentioned casually, but Mary sensed the underlying seriousness in his tone. "About vulnerability and leadership." Mary paused. "What about it?" I believe you're doing just that, leading through your own vulnerabilities. It sets the tone for others, he offered, his eyes bright with encouragement. Unconsciously, Mary straightened her posture, feigning confidence as she absorbed his words. It feels different this time, she confessed, allowing herself a moment of self-reflection. I hope everyone finds the connection I'm aiming to create. A soft smile broke across David's face. They will. Just keep being authentic. You've already impacted George's experience. His remark prompted a rush of warmth but also a fresh wave of uncertainty. Although George's departure had ignited something profound within Mary, she grappled with whether she could maintain that connection. The potential vulnerability she was developing with her group felt both thrilling and terrifying. The door swung open a few minutes later, and the familiar faces began to trickle in, bringing with them a cascade of conversations, laughter, and shared vulnerability. Yet, as Mary prepared to welcome them, the atmosphere shifted with the arrival of a new participant. A well-dressed man entered, moving with an air of confidence that felt almost palpable. He hesitated, scanning the room before stepping forward, revealing himself as the pragmatic figure of a CEO, strikingly assertive, yet oddly lost in this intimate setting. "Are you here for the book club?" Mary asked, her voice pitching higher than intended. "Yes," he replied, offering a slight smile that seemed more like a politeness than an indication of comfort. "I've heard it's a good group. I'm Jonathan." The name registered faintly in her mind. Who hadn't he heard of Jonathan Reed, the community's ambitious mogul? Her surprise transformed into curiosity, as she recognized an unparalleled opportunity. "It's nice to meet you, Jonathan." "We're just getting started," she said, gesturing toward the empty chair beside George. As the discussion began, Mary quickly noted that Jonathan's insights echoed authority and experience, but there was a weightiness behind them, a longing for deeper engagement. He spoke of leadership with layers of complexity, illustrating the isolation that success sometimes wrought. She could feel the group's fascination as they leaned in closer, eager to weave inclusiveness into the conversation. Mary shared her own thoughts of vulnerability and connection, weaving her evolving understanding from the previous meeting into the tapestry of their dialogue. "What makes us truly connect?" she asked, watching him as he wrestled with her question, an internal battle brewing behind his well-crafted corporate demeanor. Jonathan paused, his brow furrowing as if he were constructing a bridge from his guarded expectations to newfound awareness. "It's terrifying to be vulnerable when your position demands strength," he finally admitted, vulnerable yet resolute, echoes of discovery lighting the room. Mary felt her pulse quicken at his admission, recognizing that they were all battling their own cages, each one locked with unique keys of despair and hope. By the end of the evening, relationships had expanded beyond thin air, and commitments began to form. She noticed George and Jonathan exchanging thoughts, each anchoring the other as they navigated their vulnerabilities together. A sense of empowerment swelled within Mary as she realized her efforts had fostered something meaningful, igniting transformational moments for everyone involved. Yet as she emptied the space of cups and chairs following their departure, Mary was treaded once again by an unsettling thought. Could she assume the mantle of guiding Jonathan towards self-discovery? What burdens did his success hide? The thought gnawed at her, and as she watched the sky bleed from violet to black, she felt the weight of possibility bearing down on her. Were there unseen depths yet to explore, both in Jonathan and with George? Could she, through vulnerability, not only nurture her growing confidence but perhaps unlock the potential within them both? Determined to find out, Mary envisioned the journey ahead as intertwined with her own. With Jonathan appearing within the hazy glow of the shop's exit, she might just be drawn further into the complexities of human connection than she had ever anticipated. What new twists of fate awaited her at their next gathering? As the next book club meeting approached, Mary found herself grappling with the implications of her last gathering with Jonathan and the others. The anticipation was both exhilarating and heavy with expectation. She had tasted the thrill of nurturing a space for authentic conversations, but now she felt an undercurrent of anxiety ripple beneath her surface. Could she continue this momentum? Would the group respond positively to her evolving leadership style? With each day, Mary prepared her thoughts and tailored her approach, but her mind often strayed to thoughts of Jonathan. The way he had opened up, if only just a crack, sparked a fierce resolve within her. She saw in him not just the facade of a successful CEO, but a deeply flawed human being, much like herself, struggling beneath the weight of his own corporate armor. On the day of the meeting, she scheduled an extra hour solely to commune with the materials she had shifted her focus onto. A structured agenda felt limiting. Instead, she imbued her notes with motivational passages and questions that demanded more than surface-level engagement. She wanted them, herself included, to confront deeper truths. As members filled the cozy space of the bookstore, Mary was heartened to see George arrive early, smiling broadly. Their previous conversation had engendered a sense of camaraderie between them. He leaned over as she briefed herself, curiosity lighting up his face. "I'm excited to see where Jonathan takes the conversation tonight." She forced a smile but felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "I hope I can guide it effectively to make it worth everyone's time." With Jonathan walking in amid laughter and chatter, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation once again. Today, Mary made the intentional decision to give him the floor early in the meeting. "I'd love for you to share your thoughts on the novel after we discuss its themes of vulnerability and leadership," she said. The gesture felt bold, and she hoped it might draw out more of the psyche she sensed hiding within him. As they began, Jonathan offered insights laced with astute observations but paused midway. His voice lowered. "I never considered how revealing your vulnerabilities could be a form of strength. In my realm, we're often conditioned to present an impenetrable facade." Mary sensed the shift, the cracks in his facade widening to reveal glimpses of humanity underneath. "Doesn't that create a loneliness?" she probed gently. In that moment, she recognized that she was treading into uncharted territory, a delicate dance between possibility and discomfort. His frown deepened. "You'd be surprised by how isolating success can be. I've built walls around me that have become difficult to tear down." Those words resonated with her. Mary shared her emerging understanding of vulnerability as being crucial in both personal and professional realms. The conversation flowed like a river, unearthing struggles and insecurities. Afterward, as discussions meandered through the narratives of the characters they'd read about, Mary's internal dialogue churned with the realization that her own vulnerabilities were interwoven with Jonathan's. At the end of the meeting, George leaned over to her. "You really know how to unlock conversations." Today was different. It felt real. Her heart swelled at his perception, reaffirming her decision to embrace vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. However, the question haunted her: how deeply could she guide Jonathan in his journey? Would the emotions they uncovered deepen or fracture their collective resolve? After the last of the members departed, Mary remained behind, her stomach knotting at the roller coaster of feelings swirling within her. She felt empowered yet uncertain, hungry to unravel the complexities in Jonathan's psyche while knowing it could unearth challenges of her own. The air in the bookstore felt thick with potential, every shadow hinting at the intricate layers yet to be revealed. She needed to confront the delicate balance. She walked a mixture of leadership, empathy, and the undeniable reality that the lines between guiding others and confronting oneself were unexpectedly blurred. In that moment of hesitation, the shop door swung open again unexpectedly, revealing Jonathan standing there, his expression renewed with intensity. "Could we talk?" he asked, a tinge of vulnerability cascading through his confident demeanor. What profound truths might emerge in this unexpected conversation? Mary's heart raced as she processed Jonathan's request, the air between them thick with unspoken words. His presence, though confident, emitted a crackling energy that whispered of buried emotions. Every instinct urged her to reinforce the walls between their roles as leader and participant, but she felt a magnetic pull toward authenticity, a shared exploration that could yield mutual discovery. "Of course," she nodded, gesturing him toward a secluded corner of the bookstore. They settled at a wooden table, the scent of leather-bound books wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. For a moment, silence enveloped them, allowing Mary to gather her thoughts. "Thank you for being so open earlier," Jonathan began, his tone softening. "I know it might have seemed trivial, but it struck a chord with me. Vulnerability isn't something I've ever considered as a part of my identity. It felt freeing. Her fingers twitched with a mix of excitement and trepidation. I think we often overlook how revealing our true selves can be transformative not just for us, but for others too. His gaze bore into hers, and she noticed a flicker of uncertainty. What if that transformation reveals something about ourselves we don't like? What if it shatters the image we've built? His question hung in the air, laden with the weight of years spent perfecting his public persona. It resonated with her own fears, those haunting thoughts of inadequacy that slithered into her mind when faced with the prospect of welcoming vulnerability. "It's terrifying, isn't it?" she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I believe that's where true growth lies. If we don't confront those shadows, they'll only continue to control us." As the words flowed, Mary surprised herself with the depth of her insight. Was this the leadership she had been striving for, the ability to turn personal pain into collective growth? Jonathan leaned back in his chair, visibly processing her words. "Feels a bit like a gamble," he mused, a wry smile surfacing. "Baring my soul might just lead to complete failure in the eyes of my peers, especially in a world that demands perfection. But what if it doesn't?" She countered, a newfound determination flickering within her. "What if being vulnerable inspires courage in others? You've been successful professionally, but I sense you've carried burdens no one sees. Isn't it time to confront those?" His expression shifted, as though a light had flickered on in the depths of his mind. "Are you suggesting I should challenge my own narrative?" "Yes," she affirmed, emboldened by their conversation. "Not just for you, but for the people who look up to you. You have the power to redefine what leadership looks like." For a heartbeat, they were suspended in a moment of understanding, two voyagers navigating the treacherous waters of self-discovery. Yet the weight of their discussion edged closer to a turning point: the inherent risks of genuine connection. "Is it strange that I feel both liberated and terrified in this moment?" Jonathan admitted, his vulnerability more pronounced now. "I've spent so long gearing my life towards success that I've overlooked the very essence of being truly alive. This journey is about embracing all aspects of yourself," she encouraged, the conviction in her voice steady. "It's about weaving together the successful and the flawed, using them as a foundation for deeper relationships, not just in leadership but across every facet of your life." Jonathan's lips parted as if ready to speak, yet he faltered, lost in thought. Behind his gaze, Mary sensed a tempest of emotions, a world hidden beneath the polished surface he usually presented. Would he embrace her perspective or retreat into the safe confines of his old self? As tension crackled between them, a realization struck Mary: she was on the precipice of not only guiding Jonathan but confronting an undeniable truth about her own path, her strengths, her fears, and her leadership identity. "Let us redefine our narratives together," Mary suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. "Let this be our turning point." Jonathan finally met her gaze, determination igniting in his eyes. "I want that," he said, conviction saturating his voice. Yet, as they both leaned into this newfound commitment, the shadow of uncertainty loomed larger. The question that coiled in the back of Mary's mind screamed for attention. Would they genuinely confront their inner complexities? Or would the ghosts of their pasts threaten to tear down the very foundation they hoped to build? Before they could delve deeper, loud laughter erupted from the bookstore entrance. Startled, Mary glanced toward the source, realizing their intimate moment was shrouded in the chaos of an incoming crowd. How could they seize this opportunity to lead by example amidst the distractions of the world around them? The burgeoning conversation held the promise of transformation, yet the winds of change swirled with unpredictability. What awaited them on the other side of this vulnerable moment? The laughter echoed like a distant bell, jolting Mary's focus from her internal whirlwind. Looking towards the entrance, she felt the heat of vulnerability bordering on anxiety, a tightness curling in her chest as the crowd surged in. They were drawn in by the vibrancy of the bookstore, oblivious to the delicate moment shared at the corner table. Mary's instincts urged her to retreat back to the safety of professional decorum. After all, she was the leader. Yet another part of her whispered that this was precisely the moment they both needed, where authenticity could blossom amidst the commotion. Do you see that? She asked Jonathan, nodding toward a group of young professionals who had just entered. Their laughter, loud and carefree, seemed to symbolize a carefree spirit unattached to the weight of expectations. They don't seem burdened by the need for perfection. Jonathan followed her gaze. It's easy for them, he replied, a shadow playing across his features. They're not under the same pressures I am. But isn't that the point? Mary challenged, feeling her resolve sharpen. What if we can show them that it's okay to feel lost, to allow for imperfections? Perhaps being genuine in front of them could inspire them too. She sensed a shift in the air, sweat mingled with the scent of aged pages. Jonathan's eyes flickered with a hint of agreement but then clouded with doubt. What if their laughter changes into judgment? What if we fall flat? Mary leaned in slightly, her voice low but firm. Then we fall together. And if we fail, that failure will be ours to own. But if we succeed, it could change how they view vulnerability. It also might show you how to reconcile your ambitions with your true self. For a moment, he wrestled with her words. She could almost see the gears turning in his mind, the tension of the unknown visibly tightening his jaw. Then, without warning, an elderly woman approached their table. Her gray curls framed a face dotted with kindness. "Excuse me," she said warmly, interrupting their conversation in a way that felt almost serendipitous. "I couldn't help but overhear. It's refreshing to see two people who understand the essence of connection. I've been following your work, Jonathan." Mary's eyes darted to Jonathan, who seemed momentarily taken aback. "You have?" he asked, surprise etching lines on his brow. "Yes, indeed. I always tell my grandchildren that true success lies in the heart, not in the accolades," she continued, her gaze unwavering. "You hold the potential to inspire, and sometimes that means showing your true self." Mary felt a warmth radiate through her, as if the woman's words were a thread weaving through the chaotic atmosphere. Here they were, in the middle of a crowded bookstore, in the very moment they had been verbalizing yet hadn't dared to step into. Jonathan, still processing the woman's compliment, looked back at Mary. Maybe we should risk it. Maybe I can speak to them." She felt her pulse quicken, excitement battling with trepidation. "You want to share your journey? Here?" "Yes," he replied, a newfound spark igniting behind his eyes. "If I'm going to redefine my narrative, it starts now." Mary nodded, her heart pounding with a mix of pride and fear. "I'll be with you, every step of the way." As Jonathan rose, a collective hush fell over the group that had settled nearby, curiosity peeking through the laughter. Mary watched intently, knowing this was not only a pivotal moment for him but for her as well. This was about daring to step into the unknown together. But just as Jonathan began to speak, a familiar face turned their way, an executive she recognized from the local business scene, one known for his uncompromising demeanor and cutthroat tactics. His eyes narrowed, and Mary realized he had witnessed their moment of vulnerability. Now? She thought, anxiety gripping her. How could they face this figure of authority without falling back into the safety of their constructed personas? Determined to stay the course, she locked eyes with Jonathan. This was the risk inherent in their decision, the challenge that would test their resolve and authenticity in the very face of potential judgment. The moment loomed heavy with unspoken tension as they prepared to navigate this crucial intersection of vulnerability and scrutiny. Would they rise to the occasion, or retreat into the shadows of their past? Mary held her breath, feeling the weight of Jonathan's decision settle around them like a cloak. The crowd's murmurs faded, and all she could hear was the steady thud of her own heartbeat. Jonathan stood at the edge of an invisible precipice, on the verge of exposing not just his aspirations but the rawness of his fears. She remembered a saying from her mentor: growth only occurs outside of comfort zones. Jonathan cleared his throat, and together they leaned into the vulnerability they had discussed. "Hi everyone," he began, his voice noticeably shaking but strong enough to draw attention. "I'm Jonathan. You might know me more for my achievements on paper than for who I am as a person." Mary's chest tightened again as she listened intently, half anticipating the sneers, the rolling eyes she feared may erupt at any moment. The executive's intense stare was still fixed on them, and the tension heightened. What if this moment crumbled under the weight of expectation? Today, I want to talk about fear. My fear of judgment, of failing to meet expectations, and how it often holds me back. Jonathan continued, stepping off the ledge of performative success and into the realm of honesty. I'm not perfect. I've struggled, perhaps you all know what I mean. That strategic move of identifying a shared experience caught Mary off guard. She felt a part of herself lift, sensing not only Jonathan's courage, but the quiet strength in the assembled crowd. Murmurs shifted from skepticism to curiosity. There's a pressure to succeed in my field, to always appear composed and in control, but the truth is we all falter. What I'm coming to understand is that vulnerability can be a source of strength. If we trust one another with our authentic selves, we not only grow but inspire one another to do the same. The crowd's silence transformed into whispers of appreciation, admiration woven into the conversations. Mary watched Jonathan's transformation with awe, his initial doubt melting away. She felt pride swelling in her chest. He had given them more than just a speech, he had ignited a spark of understanding that seemed to radiate through the room. Just then, the executive stepped forward, his narrowed eyes now keen with interest. You think it's that simple? He challenged, his tone sharp, still carrying that familiar air of skepticism. Being vulnerable is all well and good, but where does it get you when the stakes are high? It's a dangerous game. Instead of retreating into his shell, Jonathan met the gaze of the executive, undeterred. It doesn't promise success, but it invites connection. Isn't it possible that the greatest risks also lead to the most profound rewards? Like understanding that we aren't alone in this journey? Mary felt the atmosphere shift, the air crackled with potential. The executive's dismissive exterior began to crack, revealing glimpses of contemplation beneath. The battle between traditional expectations and the emerging desire for authenticity was beginning to play out vividly before them. Let us face it, Jonathan pressed on, driven by an unexpected boldness. Who among us isn't tired of the masks we wear? What are we achieving, really? By embracing our flaws, we might create a space where excellence is defined by our authenticity, not our ability to conform. Mary's heart raced as she pondered the implications of Jonathan's words. Could this be the key to not just his personal development, but a shift in the corporate landscape? With every word, she felt the weight of her own fears begin to lift. The moment turned electric, charged with possibilities, yet she remained acutely aware of the executive's presence, wondering how this confrontation might pay off. As Jonathan finished, the crowd erupted into applause. Relief surged through Mary. He had done it. They had confronted the fear of scrutiny head-on, and the result had been nothing short of transformative. But as they basked in the glow of accomplishment, Mary caught a hint of something darker in the executive's eyes, a flicker of anger or perhaps fear? What his next move would be weighed heavily on her mind, casting a shadow over their victory. The moment of vulnerability had been powerful, but what would the fallout be? Would they face resistance from those who thrived on maintaining the status quo? This journey was just beginning, and the greatest challenges often came after the first brave steps forward. The tension hung palpably in the air, casting a long shadow. Transformation was often met with pushback, and each step forward could ignite a fierce struggle. The days that followed Jonathan's powerful revelation unraveled like a tightly coiled spring, ready to explode with energy and excitement. Mary felt invigorated, her heart brimming with a newfound lightness, a stark contrast to the heaviness she had carried for so long. The bookstore became a vibrant sanctuary filled with discussions of authenticity, vulnerability, and connection. Their gathering spaces overflowed with laughter and stories. The book club expanded beyond mere titles and themes. It morphed into a forum where participants unveiled their own vulnerabilities. Each week, members like George began leading discussions as they shared their paths toward wielding vulnerability as strength. Mary reveled in this transformation, realizing she was not just running a bookstore, she was facilitating an awakening. The echoes of each meeting reaffirmed her place in the world, a newfound confidence surging as she witnessed the magic of connection woven through their collective sharing. Jonathan grew bolder, his voice resonating even beyond the confines of their intimate gatherings. He became a facilitator of change in corporate circles, advocating for policies accommodating openness and transparency. The influence he wielded inspired other leaders to rethink their definitions of success, which increasingly revolved around emotional intelligence and humane connection. With time, Mary's feelings of inadequacy gave way to self-assurance. The shadows of doubt no longer whispered their haunting predictions of failure in her ear. Instead, a strong belief emerged. She was inherently capable of leading, a leader who fostered hopes and dreams, not just for herself but for others. The bookstore, once a monument to grief and struggle, burgeoned into a hub of creativity and collaboration. Local authors found their footing, community events filled the shelves with smiling faces, and Mary started hosting workshops aimed at fostering creativity. She launched a monthly Write Your Truth series encouraging participants to draft personal narratives that interwove vulnerability and resilience. One evening, while directing a particularly engaging workshop, Mary found herself speaking candidly about her own journey of despair, doubt, and the slow but steady unraveling into fulfillment. The room was silent, enraptured. At that moment, she felt her late husband's warmth enveloping her, urging her forward, deeply connected to the dream they once shared for this bookstore. As she stepped back, acknowledging how far she had come, she embraced the comfort of success without losing sight of her earnest humility. Her daughter, inspired by her mother's transformation, expressed her own aspirations of becoming a writer, igniting a precious connection between generations. It was a bright Saturday when the mayor of their small town knocked at the bookstore door, an unexpected but exhilarating surprise. Standing before Mary in his crisp suit, he disclosed a commendation acknowledging the pivotal role her establishment had played in revitalizing community bonds and promoting well-being. The award recognized not just the bookstore but the spirit of resilience that Mary had cultivated within its walls. Tears of profound gratitude welled in her eyes as she realized the journey she had taken, not just from risking the closure of her shop to empowering herself and those around her, but to leading a community toward greater connection. This was her legacy. At that moment, it became clear. Mary had conquered her fears of inadequacy and the weight of her past. With unwavering determination, she demonstrated that vulnerability nurtures profound connections, fostering growth that can transcend mere survival. As the crowd applauded, she felt solid confidence envelop her being, each hand clap echoing a promise that she had not only achieved success but had become an architect of hope for herself and others. In the tender quiet after the applause, her heart swelled with pride. I am where I'm meant to be, she thought. No longer just a keeper of books, she was a weaver of stories that connected lives. And amid all the chaos, this was only the beginning. So as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting a warm glow over the bookstore, Mary looked at her surroundings, each book, each smile, a testament to her journey and triumph. The worries that once haunted her evanesced. Her future was bright, shrouded not in darkness but in unyielding light. Now, I urge you subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire your journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show that you want more stories of personal overcoming. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this compelling conclusion. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the impact these actions have on empowering more transformations.